Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to another exercise tutorial from our tutorial series of Chapter 3 from our Managerial Accounting course, ACCT 428. This is Muhammad Al-Jabir, and in this video tutorial we're going to be looking at exercise 3-7a. So let's read the exercise together. It says, Stone Corporation is a manufacturing company that makes small electric motors. It sells for $45 per unit. The variable costs of production are $25 per motor, and annual fixed costs of production are $800,000. What's required? A. How many units of product must Stone make and sell to break even? Okay, so for the first part, we just need to figure out the number of units that the company, Stone Corporation, needs to manufacture and sell in order to break even, meaning they need to get to the point where their revenues equal their expenses. So their total profit is going to be zero. So we can do this in multiple ways, just like we've learned. We can use the formula in which we assume that N stands for the number of units to break even. Okay. Combining this with the formula that states that sales minus variable costs minus fixed costs should equal the profits. Okay. So based on both of these, we can split the first term. Since we don't have the total sales, we don't know what would be the total sales at the break-even point, but we know that it should equal the selling price. Let's call that P, multiplied by N, which is the number of units. Okay, minus, also we still don't know the total variable cost, but we know that it should equal the variable cost per unit multiplied by N. Okay, minus the fixed costs, that should equal the profits, and we know at the break-even point the profit should equal zero. So based on this, we can take the selling price from here, which is $45 per unit. So 45 multiplied by N minus the variable cost from the question, which is $25, also multiplied by N. We could also take the fixed cost and move it across the equal sign and change its sign. So it's going to equal positive fixed costs plus the profit, which is at the break-even point should be zero. So that would be equal to zero. Okay, this is us using the first method, which is the equation method, right? So now we can simplify our formula. So 45n minus 25n, that's going to be 20n, and that should equal the fixed cost, which was given to us in the question, to be $800,000. Okay, so $800,000. And now we want to remove this 20 from here. So all we need to do in order to achieve that is just divide both sides by 20. So the 20 is going to be eliminated, and we're going to be left with N equaling the break-even number of units. Okay, so go to the calculator. 800,000 divided by 20, that's 40,000 units. So N should equal 40,000 units. That's the number of units that the company needs to sell in order to break even. Okay, that's one way to do it. The other way is to just use the contribution margin method. And the contribution margin method, which is typically easier, states that the break-even, let's write it down in red, break-even in units should equal the fixed costs divided by contribution margin per unit. And we know that we can find the contribution margin per unit by subtracting the variable cost per unit from the selling price per unit. And we have both of these pieces of information here in the question. So the variable cost per unit is 25 and the selling price per unit is 45. So that means our contribution margin per unit is 20. So the break-even in units is going to be the fixed cost, which is 800,000. Notice how this method provides us with a shortcut, divided by 20. This is the exact step we got to right here, right? Okay. And that would equal the same thing, 40,000 units. All right. So let's call this method number 2. And this is method number 1. All right, so that's part A answered. Now let's go back to the question and look at part B. It says, how many units of product must Stone make and sell to earn $120,000 in profit? Now, whether you use this method right here, the formula, what you're going to do is just, instead of assuming that the profit is 0, you're going to change this number here to become 120,000. And if you're going to use the contribution margin method, all you need to do is just add the profits right here in the numerator. Okay? Let's use the contribution margin method since it's easier and quicker. So part B, let's write down the formula again. Break even units should equal, sorry, this is not the break even we're calculating now. We are calculating the target. Let's call it target sales in units should equal the fixed costs plus the profits divided by the contribution margin per unit. Okay, and now just substitute. So the fixed cost is still the same, 800,000, and the desired profit is 120,000. Okay, so we're going to add that and divide both by the contribution margin per unit, which equals 45 minus 25, which is 20. Okay, so now just go to your calculator. 800,000 plus 120,000, that's 800,000 plus 120,000, that's 920,000 divided by 20, and that's going to be 46,000 units. Okay, let's add one page. So that's part B. Now let's read part C. It says the marketing manager believes that sales would increase dramatically if the price were reduced to $40 per unit. Okay, so from $45 per unit, it's going to be reduced to $40 per unit. How many units of product must Stone make and sell to earn 160,000 profit if the sales price is set to $40 per unit. So now our variables are going to change in this scenario. So P, which stands for the selling price, is going to become 40, and the profit, or the target profit, is going to increase from 120 to 160,000. So we have two inputs that are going to be changed, right? So again, part C, targets, sales in units, fixed costs plus profits over contribution margin per unit. Okay. The fixed cost is going to still be the same, 800,000. The profit is going to increase from 120,000 to 160,000. It's even better if you write down your data at the top here, if you want, just to be safe. So I can, before I start solving, I can write down my inputs here. I typically do this in exams just to be careful, not to make mistakes. The profit, 160,000. The price, $40, and the variable costs still the same, which is the variable cost per unit, $25. Okay, so that means the contribution margin per unit is going to equal 40 minus 25, which is $15. So these are all the data that I need. So let's continue. Now the contribution margin per unit is 40 minus 25, which is $15. Go to your calculator. 800,000 plus 160,000, that's 960,000 divided by 15, and that would be 64,000 units. What does that mean? That means that if the company decides to reduce its selling price to 40 and increase their target profit to 160,000, while their fixed costs remain the same and their variable costs remain the same, their new target sales in units that they need to achieve in order to manage to successfully achieve this profit is that they need to produce and sell 64,000 units. Okay? That's it for this exercise. This is how you can solve exercise 3-7A. I hope that you found this video useful. If you still have any questions, feel free as always to write them down in the comments. And until I see you in the next exercise tutorial, this is Mohammed Al Jaber. Keep on learning and take care.